So we've got sleep, we've got weight, and we've got time. I'll just screen share this on my little pad. Oh, I tell you, my future self does not tolerate my child stealing my iPad. No more consequences. All right. So current, standard, and then future standard. Because what we're trying to get really clear on is what is the future standard, the emerging potential. You don't have to choose sleep, weight, or time. I'm just using an example here. So whatever's relevant to you, that's what we need to get a clearer standard for. So say, for instance, we'll use time, because time, say you have a tolerance of having, like, we'll just use an example of like 2 hours of free time a day. I'm more or less just like picking this out of the air. And say your future standard, like for you to really be who you want to be next, you need more free time. Like, you need more time for whatever, for walking, for self-care, for time with friends, for time, deep connection. I need time right now to be a parent to my puppy. Puppy training takes up at least a half an hour a day of my time right now. So say what you want is more time to put into that, what you want to put it. Say you want to, your future self, your emerging potential has 4 hours of free time a day. Free time per day. What we want to see here is, like, with identity evolution, there's clearly a difference. It's measurable. Now, how would other people perceive you if you were living your future potential? So I'm going to start like a 3-day version of this. So on another axis, we could say here, what changes? Because often identity evolution is noticeable from the outside in, from other people's perspective of you. So what changes would other people notice? What changes would other people notice? And some people might like these changes. Some people might not like these changes. Some people might get nervous if you have more time for yourself. Some people, that's a kind of a funny thing to realize, but like some people really are like uncomfortable with other people having like control of their time. What would other people notice if, say, you were getting the kind of sleep you needed or at your ideal body weight? Like, what would other people notice? Some people would notice, like, say you had twice as much free time, that you just seemed more relaxed and maybe seemed more in control. Maybe you always knew where your keys were because you didn't feel like you were running around. So that would be something that other people would notice. So with identity evolution, it often seems like it's just within ourselves, but it's also what other people could notice. All right, so you should all have what your current standards are with particular goals that are related to Body Thrive, what your future standard is of your emerging potential, and then how other people might notice the difference between the two. What is the difference between the two? So say here we are, and here's our clock. So a lot of people will start eating something. We'll say this is like 7 a.m. and they'll actually, let me take this one off. So they'll break their fast and they'll eat like straight through to, like, we'll say 9 p.m. So that would be a 12 plus 2. That would be a 14-hour feed time and an 8-hour fast time. So this is a cycle that this will, for an adult, will have AMA just by the nature of the hours, where there'll be undigested food, or undigested is what AMA actually literally means, uncooked. which is kind of a cool word. All right, so what this becomes, I'm going to use the color. I'll use gray. It's kind of yellowy gray, actually. Maybe I can find a brown. There we go. All right, so what happens is there ends up being ama in the body. So if we simply reverse these two things and say we have a 14-hour fast and an 8-hour feed. Oops, I'm sorry, I did this wrong. 10. That gives us 24 hours in a day. The problem is this is not enough time to digest ama. So autophagy, of the cell's ability to digest what's in it that it doesn't want, that kicks in at a 20-hour fast. And so we need, to me, it's just like kind of fascinating, because what also happens is with this feed fast time that's generating ama, it also generates cravings. You also get things like an increase in fight or flight. You get reactivity. You get an increase in blood pressure. You get all the signs that the body's aging faster, heart rate. You get shallower breathing. All of that goes hand in hand with this feed time, that pattern. Whereas if we have times, if we even reverse this, just going to the 14-hour fast, 10-hour feed, just going in that direction will enable us to go more and more in the direction of longer fasts. Taking a day off eating, it's like it's part of every culture over time. It's also animals do it. You'll often see like your dog just be like not interested in food. And if you don't, some people think something's wrong and then they overfeed the dog. They like disrupt that natural desire. It happens in nature all the time. There's just time off eating. So by fasting for 14 hours, that 14 hours starts to go to 16-hour fast, starts to go to 18-hour fast. And soon, like all of a sudden you notice, like without even trying, you just realize you really weren't that hungry. The reason you're not hungry is digestion is happening. It's just happening in the cell instead of happening between the mouth. I'm just going to make it a shoot. Instead of happening between the mouth and the anus, I'll color this orange. Instead of relying on the Jatara Agni and just digesting on this level, is you start to actually digest the ama. You start to digest on the brown, on the ama. Digest the ama. Now, once there's no longer ama, because ama will be finite, especially if we're not continually like putting more ama in the body by eating too frequently or eating too much, and by having longer fast times. And eventually, what happens is you get the body's ability to even digest precancerous cells or cancerous cells. You also, this is so fascinating, you start to basically digest genetic tendencies. Sometimes that's called cell mutations. So cells that are on the cusp of mutating or have mutated, those cells get digested. Autophagy it continues in a really healthy state for up to 3 days. So between like 20 hours, some people go 20-hour fast. Other people do like a 40-hour fast once a week or a couple times a month. And then some people do like a 3-day fast. If they're really concerned about precancerous cells or genetic tendencies, cell mutation, they'll do like a 3-day fast once a month. Often what I find is different is like just the concept of just like what in here makes someone uncomfortable. Is it going a few hours without food? Is it going 14 hours without food? Is it going 16 hours. What makes someone uncomfortable? Is it 18 hours? Is it 20 hours? Is it 40 hours? Is it 3 days? Because usually somewhere in there, someone's like, that makes me, that would be very uncomfortable.